Tell me about Dr. Fuchs's presentation
Sure.
of the Keynote 059.
Sure. Well, so actually there are two cohorts in Keynote 059. One was presented by Dr. Fuchs, and the other one was presented the day earlier, which combined PD-1, pembrolizumab with chemotherapy. So Dr. Fuchs's study was a single-arm study, third line or above, of pembrolizumab by itself. And to Yelena's point, and she's absolutely right, the response rates were very low. Yeah. So less than 10%. And interestingly, and Kohei will talk to this, I think, but it's actually the same response rate that was seen with nivolumab in the Ono study. And in that study, the hazard ratio was 0.65. And we've not had a randomized study in gastric cancer for metastatic disease with that hazard ratio. So even though the response rate is low, there is benefit to the PD-1 inhibitor. And, I think it's a fair bet that it'll likely get approved at some point.
So, so when Dr. Fuchs did his presentation, a lot of people sort of said, well, is this just being driven by microsatellite instability status? So I will tell you a little story. The first time I met Yelena was not at one of these, but it was because she called me, she emailed me, I think about 5 times before I responded, sorry.
It's okay, I'm persistent.
And then she said, I need to know the MSI status of your patients who were put on my study with immunotherapy.
So, I think, this type of analysis and the collaborations and having, a rapport and being able to reach out to, and you were the closest investigator I called, as this trial, as I showed the map when I presented, it was an international study. So there were, folks involved in Europe and across US. So this was a Checkmate 32 study and the cohort of patients in esophageal and gastric adenocarcinoma, and mirroring Attraction 2 study, looking at heavily pretreated patients with metastatic disease, but in the West. Because up to this point, and across different subtypes of biomarker analysis, everyone always believed that gastric cancer in U.S. should not be approached the same as gastric cancer in Asia. And in fact, if you have a positive study in Asia, you cannot use it for regulatory purposes for any drug approval in U.S. because it's just completely different ball game. So the Checkmate 32 study was U.S. only and West and Europe study, smaller study, non-randomized, or rather it was randomized but not designed to compare and contrast against placebo or other regimens. And we looked at nivolumab monotherapy, nivolumab in combination with 2 different doses of ipilimumab. It's funny, Charlie and I presented at the same meeting, and it looked like we copied the conclusions from each other, because the conclusions, and that's a good sign when the 2 experts in the field agree to that extent. I mean, word for word, the conclusions were very similar. Again, there's a subset of patients that benefit, and they clearly benefit. You see it when you treat these patients in your clinic, you're a believer when you see 1 or 2 of these responses. But when you look at the median progression-free or median overall survivals, they're not impressive. So the curves, are pretty much similar. But what we're looking for is the tail on the curve, and the tail on the curve is a complete game changer. And whether or not a combination therapy or monotherapy is the right answer, it's hard to say. Combination of nivolumab, ipilimumab certainly improves response rate. And again, this is a recurring theme in gastric cancer. 1 drug is probably enough. Addition of 2nd or 3rd drug is maybe important in a subset of patients, similar to what we talked about with cytotoxic agents, but at a cost of toxicity and an improvement in response rate, but marginal, if any, improvement in survival. And so in a younger patient that is fit and has a certain tumor biology, which we can talk about later, perhaps a combination therapy may be explored. These are questions that are all hypothesis generating at best and are being explored in phase 3 setting now.
Yeah, and Dr. Shitara, tell us about Ono, the nivolumab study. We saw this, it was the first randomized phase 3 data we saw of an immunotherapy for patients
truly
with gastric
practice
cancer.
change.
Yeah.
This is an Asian trial which enrolled patients from Japan, Korea, and Taiwan. And the target patient is full refractory to at least 2 standard therapy. Most of patients from Japan were enrolled as a fourth-line therapy. So all available treatment was conducted and then enrolled for the clinical trial. It clearly shows a survival benefit. Hazard ratio is 0.63. And tolerability is very good. Already Ono company submitted this data for Japanese regulatory authority in last December, so I hope in the future this nivolumab will be approved. After this, we can use nivolumab based on this trial, either third line or fourth line treatment. At the same time, we also joined the Keynote 5/9 trial and enroll some patients. Important message from these two studies is there is no clear difference. Cross-trial comparison is there is a limitation, but the response rate PFS is similar. Western patient population with small Japanese patient population and Asian trial with nivolumab. So this is a very important message. And also we joined the pembrolizumab trial in phase 3 in second line and fourth line, which only target PD-L1 positive tumor, especially in first line. And also we joined the Checkmate 649, which was developed by Yelena's data, which compare ipi-nivo, chemo, and chemo-nivo. So this trial is all very important to give us a future step as immunotherapies.